they try to extort me in Woodbine, Georgia,
Wow.
you know, because I'm affiliated with the Kings, and there ain't too many Bloods or 5. That's a 6 county.
Okay.
You know, that's all Crips, Disciples, GDs, you know, Insane Disciples, LGDs, IGDs, you know, and, you know, I'm tatted up to the fullest. You know what I'm saying? I'm ADR, crown all over me, you know, and dude really thought that I was going to pay rent to live there.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bounce Back Podcast. I'm your host B. Luke, man. I got a special guest with me today. Why don't you tell the people your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself?
My name is Danny Santana. I'm the founder and CEO of ITY, inspiring today's young adults. I'm born and raised out of Roxbury, Ruggles Projects, you know, and it's a pleasure to be here, man. You know, especially good to see somebody that we know face to face from the inside.
Yeah.
To be able to come out and see that we both doing the same type of work out here.
It's cool. Yeah, as soon as I saw your face, I'm like, I remember you. We just had to kind of put it together. Where? And yeah, the same thing, man. To see the video you just showed me. Talk about that video on the news and what you had going on recently, man.
That's what I do. So right now I'm running a campaign called Stand for Peace. You know, I'm trying to get the older guys from each neighborhood like us, you know, the shot callers, to put in the word, to let those know, those that are out there doing from a certain day at a certain time, they got to cease all movement. All movement, there ain't nothing positive, it's got to cease. From 1 to 4 p.m., Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays.
Wow.
I need them to start stepping up, putting on some ITY hats, and start going out there and talking to these youth. These youth are out of control. So in the past few weeks, I've witnessed boys, young boys, stomping out a 14-year-old girl, broke her jaw, took her phone away. You know, a group of kids attacking women, attacking senior citizens. You know, the other day, a group of kids attacked 4 officers at the Fields Corner train station.
Wow.
You know, God forbid one of them would have reached for one of them officers' guns. It would have been a complete whole different story today.
Absolutely.
You know, and these kids don't know the danger that they putting themselves in when they're involving themselves in that type of shenanigans.
Yeah.
They all quick to pull out phones and try to record and everything, put everything on TikTok, Facebook, you know, talk about, you know, Boston beef and this and that. But these kids don't know what they're talking about, or they don't know what they living. You know, guys like me and you that been in there, that been in the belly of the beast, we know what true struggle is.
Absolutely.
We know what true pain, and we know what true horror is.
And that's
These
why we're
kids,
here.
these kids have no idea what they're getting ready to subject themselves to.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm out there doing what I'm doing with the people that I'm working with.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't get paid for doing what I do. I do everything out of pocket. Everybody that's wearing an ITY doesn't get paid. They volunteer. And the reason why they volunteer is because they believe so much in my mission and what I'm really doing out here with these youth, that they give time out their day to stand with ITY to try to make a difference.
That's dope. So the youth, super important. Let's just talk a little bit about your experience as a youth. Talk about the home dynamic. Did you have both parents, siblings? What was going on at home when you were young?
So my home dynamic was a little bit different from a lot of these youth. I can't say that I came from a broken home, because I didn't. I had a mother, I had a father, I had a loving family. The problem was that I grew in addiction to the streets early on. But the difference was between my home and these homes now, these parents in today's generation, they glorify they 12, 13, 14-year-old talking about that they gang members, throwing up gang sets, talk about they down with this and they down with that. When I was growing up, my parents didn't allow that. There was no such thing, me walking into that front door wearing the yellow flag or black and gold beads talking about I'm a Latin king. They wasn't having that. You know, in today's generation, parents, especially young mothers, sitting there glorifying their 13, 14, 15-year-old talking about that they gang members.
Wow.
You know, that's the difference between our generation and their generation. I turned out the way that I turned out because of the choices that I made. Not because I came from a broken home, because I didn't. I came from two loving parents. But they got so tired of being called to school or being called to come pick me up from the police station that they just left me there so I can learn the lesson.
Wow.
You know, Unfortunately, it took about 25 years for me to learn that lesson, and I went through some very hardships.
Better late than never, though. When did you start getting in trouble with the law? What happened? Was that early on in you?
So my first time in DYS, I was 11 years old.
Damn.
My first time in a state prison, I was 2 months shy of my 17th birthday.
Damn.
You know, so I had a long history of run-ins with DYS, to the county, to the state bid, to all the way up to traveling different states.
What kind of effect would you say that DYS, Department of Youth Services, had on you? Do you think that obviously didn't deter you from messing up? Do you think that more prepared you for adult prison? What do you think about that dynamic?
I think DYS at that time absolutely just prepared me and all that whole generation.
Did you see a lot of those same faces in prison?
I seen DYS? A lot. To be honest, I seen probably a quarter of the same faces because the other 70% were already dead.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality.
Absolutely.
You know, and those that weren't dead, that's the quarter that I'm talking about that I ended up seeing in county, ended up seeing upstate, ended up seeing, you know, traveling around in other states around the U.S.
Why do you think that doing DYS time wasn't enough for you to kind of learn that this isn't the life?
Because in DYS, they didn't really have people out there that really cared. For most of those working DYS, it was just a paycheck.
Babysitters.
Babysitters. They didn't have what DYS has now. Dudes that are coming home from prison from doing years in incarceration, actually speaking the truth to these youth.
That's dope.
We didn't have that.
What would you say to the youth if you was in there today, man?
Same thing I say to my youth all the time. The choices you make today will subject the type of lifestyle and comfortability that you're going to live in the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Damn. When you said you went upstate right before your 17th birthday, you didn't do no county time?
No, I did county time for about 6 months.
Okay, and then you went upstate?
And then I got sentenced to an adult bid, and I ended up going upstate.
How much time did they give you for that first state bid?
So they gave me 5 years. I ended up doing 3.5 out that 5.
So what does that feel like when you get hit with 5 years at such a young age, man? That's a long time when you're 17. I mean, that's a third of your life.
It didn't affect me. I mean, at the time when I got hit off, because there were so many people getting hit off for 5 to 7, you know, 4 in the day, 7 in the day type is like, it was a joke. I didn't realize how serious it was until my first time walking through that mile in Concord. When you first checking in and you got to walk that mile underneath. That's when it hit me like, hold on, this is a whole new different ball game here.
Yeah, and then what kind of happens? You're a young dude, you're upstate. What's your experience like there? What happens? Do you get classified out of Concord? Where do you go?
So you get classified. Same thing as it is right now. I mean, now Concord ain't classification, it's Walpole. And then
actually Walpole closed. They do it in Shirley Max, the class now.
So,
they closed
so
Walpole.
Now,
but
before you were going to Concord, you sit there for about a month and a half, 2 months to get classified, and then depending on how many DRs you gained while you was in county, which is going to determine your level of security, maximum, minimum, or pre-release.
What was your point situation?
You know what I'm saying? My point situation landed me straight in the max.
Damn.
Just because, you know, of all the gang activity that was involved while incarcerated in county. So when I hit the state level, even though I was young, I went straight into the max, which was a 23-1 lockdown.
Wow. What was that experience like when you get there? Just
It's
was
different.
what it is?
It's different. You
Different
know,
vibe?
You think you're prepared for that life, but it takes a toll on you. It takes a toll on you mentally. It takes a toll on you spiritually. It takes a toll on you physically. You know, like you and I both know, prison ain't meant for everybody.
Right.
There's a lot of dudes that claim that they hardcore G's in the streets. A lot of dudes that are shooters in the streets get behind those walls and they fold quick.
Why do you think that is?
Because they don't have the mental capacity to survive in that type of environment. You know, they was out in the streets thinking it was all fun and games. And then when they found themselves in the belly of the beast, when they found themselves seeing the true horrors that are behind those walls, a lot of them collapsed.
Damn. What was your stay like in the max? Are you in and out the hole, or do you kind of do your thing and then get classed out of there?
So when I first got up there, it was a lot of in and out of the hole. You know, you have to really stay out of trouble for a couple months for a certain period of time before you can get classed out of there. But, you know, I was young, ignorant, had a chip on my shoulder, you know, thought that just because I belonged to a certain group of guys that, you know, that we were the shit, that we ran things, you know, but that's just not reality. That's just, no matter who you're a part of, no matter who you with, prison changes so much. 1 minute you and your crew on the top of the food chain, the next minute you and your crew are at the bottom of the food chain. That's how quick and how often the prison
Is that when you find
changes.
out who's really real? Because it's one thing to be a front runner, right, and be with this is the squad. We got the numbers, but now, like you said, bottom of the food chain. Is that where you kind of find out who's who?
I mean, I came to find out who's who when I realized that I was starving, and it wasn't my own brothers that were feeding me. It was my so-called enemies.
What's that? Because I don't think, a lot of people, they take life for granted, right? A lot of people, they in their whole life, they never went to bed hungry. What's that feeling like, man? Like,
I mean, it's an eye-opener. You know, you literally gotta swallow your ego. Whatever ego you got in jail, you gotta learn how to humble yourself and break that ego. Because that ego will either get you hurt, or that ego will leave you hungry for a long time. You know what it was to ask another man who I didn't know, yo, bro, you got an extra bar of soap that I can have? A half a bar of soap, or you got some hand-me-down boxes that I can use?
Damn.
Because I don't got no money coming in, no commissary, no letters, no visits. You know, I'm sitting there writing people's poems, reading people's letters, writing people's letters for them just to be able to survive. You know, that's a big humbling experience. When you gotta ask the next man that you don't know from a hole in the wall to help you to survive. And those that claim that they love you, those that claim a fist upon your heart that they die for you, will sit there and eat in front of you and not even offer you a soup.
damn. Does that start to build resentment towards them?
It built resentment. It built animosity. But it also opened up my eyes. It opened up my eyes to who were my real brothers and who weren't my real brothers.
How long into your bid is this now that you're starting to realize this stuff? A couple years? How long does it take?
It took a long time. It took a long time. I was affiliated 27 years. And I want to say that it wasn't until my 17, 18 year of affiliation that I really started opening up my eyes to the ignorance and the false doctrine that I wholeheartedly believed in and was spreading.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the reasons why I teach what I teach to the youth, you know, because you can't claim to be a man and you allow for another man that's in the same struggle as you to dictate how you're going to talk, how you're going to walk, and how you're going to behave and what you should do. That's not being a man. You're saying that you're a man, but here again, you're letting another man who's in the same situation as you, who's in the same struggle as you, dictate how you're going to live your life.
Damn.
You know, that's why the stuff that I teach my youth is so fundamental.
Yeah.
Because it's the basics, one-on-one, on what you should know in becoming a man, what you should know in presenting yourself as a man, what you should know to stay away from, to avoid, to be a part of. You know, there's two types of gangs in the world. Everybody's a part of a gang. You're either a part of a good-natured gang, which is not labeled a gang. They're called agency, state departments, or organizations. But they're still a gang. Why? Because a gang is defined as 3 or more with the same thought process, same thinking, and the same movement. That's what defines a gang. When you got 3 or more people that think the same way, that talk the same way, that dress the same way, that move the same way, that's the real definition of a gang. Yeah. But they're not going to say that police officers, lawyers, doctors, teachers, priests, they're not going to label those people as a gang. Why? Because they belong to certain sectors, certain organizations, certain departments. So they're not labeled as gangs. Those are good natures.
Yeah.
You know, people who are part of a good natured gang have what's called a 401k to look forward. They get paid by the state, by the feds, by whatever agency that wherever they live in to be a part of what they're doing.
Right.
When you become a teacher, you get certified. You get paid to be a teacher. When you become a police officer, you get training. You get certified. You get paid to be a trainer. When you become a lawyer, you got to go to law school for 4 to 8 years and pass the bar exam to speak law.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You get paid for being what you're getting paid. Okay? Now, when you're a part of what's called a bad natured gang, those are street gangs, street crews. You don't get paid the way good natured gangs get paid. You don't get a full 1K plan. You don't get a 9 to 5 with benefits, dental, and health. Okay? How do people like us support ourselves?
Right.
By committing crime, by selling drugs, stabbings, shootings, extortions, prostitution, addiction, mental health.
Yep.
These are all the factors that are a part of being any type of gang. I don't care what gang you're part of. If you're part of a bad natured gang, there's no bad natured gang in existence that's going to offer you a full 1K plan.
That's fair to say.
There's no bad natured gang in existence that's going to teach you what you need to learn about buying a house, being a first-time homeowner, the importance of fixing your credit, how to go about fixing your credit. You know, there was a saying in Spanish that my grandma used to say to me, show me who you be with, and I'll tell you who you are.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I didn't understand what that meant. Until I got a little bit older, then I started realizing.
Birds of a feather
flock together,
man. Did you stay in the max that whole bid? Do you end up getting out? Medium, minimum? What ends up happening?
I ended up going to a medium and then coming home on parole.
Okay. What happens with parole? How's that work? Did you violate?
So I never really violated parole in the state of Massachusetts.
Okay.
I violated parole in other states.
Okay.
But I violated because I always ended up coming back to Massachusetts, which was a
just like
violation
runaway, yeah.
because I wasn't supposed to leave that state.
What other states were you getting in trouble in?
Oh, man. Florida, New York, Connecticut. I've been in Rhode Island.
Now, you just getting arrested there, or you ending up in jails in these places?
I'm ending up in jails in these places.
Damn. So what is like,
You know,
what about Florida? What's the what would you say is one of the biggest differences between jail down there and
I
up
would
here?
say one of the worst prison systems I've ever been was Woodbine, Georgia.
Why?
Why? Because they don't have hot pots like we do up here. They don't have microwaves, right? The blankets they give you, all those rough wool fire blankets. You get one sheet that's full of piss, full of stain.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta eat your soup with the same water that you're cooking, brushing your teeth with. You know, soups down here for us are like what? 91 cents. Connecticut, they used to be 25 cents.
Yeah, I remember when
Woodbine,
they were
Georgia, you're
24.
paying $1.89, $1.92
For a ramen
for
noodle.
for ramen noodle.
Damn.
You know, and those are privatized prisons.
That's what it is.
So at
Yep.
10 o'clock at night, the captains, the COs, they off the unit. So from 10 to 6 o'clock in the morning, you're in the projects.
Is it a
Dude.
dorm situation?
No, it's regular lockdown units. But dudes are popping the cells, dudes are
Okay.
smoking weed, gambling. You know, you got dudes, whoever controlling, whatever gang they from that's controlling that unit out there, extortion, making people pay rent. Like,
They ever look at you because you're from up here a certain way? Or
I mean, they did.
yeah.
They did. So they tried to extort me in Woodbine, Georgia, you know, because I'm affiliated with the Kings and there ain't too many Bloods or 5. That's a 6 county.
Okay.
You know, that's all Crips, Disciples, GDs, you know, Insane Disciples, LGDs, IGDs, you know, and, you know, I'm tatted up to the fullest. You know what I'm saying? I'm ADR, crown all over me, you know, and dude really thought that I was going to pay rent to live there.
Pay to stay.
So I ended up getting sent to the hole, and I happen to get put in a cell with the only other fives on the compound, which was two other Bloods. They were from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay, so way out there. Politics is way different.
So as soon as I come into the cell, like, first of all, it's 3 to a cell in the hole, and these dudes were strapped and ready for whatever.
Yeah.
As soon as I walked in, they was like, yo, you 5? You already know, all day, every day. You know what I'm saying? They hand me a shank real quick. We all were shanked up, 2 shanks apiece. The first night that I got to the hole, it was like 11:30 at night. All of a sudden, our cell door popped. And they ready. They're like, yo, whoever come through that door, you're either going to fight for your life or your life is going to die. You're going to die here.
Wow.
But they wasn't coming for my cellies. They was trying to come thinking that because I was short, that it was going to be an easy gig with me. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't expecting that my cellies had already strapped me up and that, that I was going to get down for business.
Right. But looking back, all that is really all because of these tattoos and everything you have, which could have... Is that something that you tell these kids to kind of stay away from that because you get put in situations like that?
I told them, you might be the top of the food chain today, but tomorrow you'll be at the bottom of that food chain. And when you're at the bottom of that food chain, it's a whole different ballgame.
How long ago was that Georgia situation?
We're in 24, about 8 years ago.
Okay, so is this kind of right before 2018 where we meet in Bill Ricker? And what ends up happening? I see you in Bill Ricker.
So when me and you met up, this was like maybe a year and a half prior. I had just got extradited back to Massachusetts on a fugitive warrant.
From Georgia? From where?
No, I got extradited from Georgia to Connecticut. I finished up my sentence in Connecticut. So I got sentenced to a 19-year sentence in Connecticut. And then after 4 years of appealing it to the Supreme Court, my sentence got reduced from 19 years to 9 years. Whew. And I ended up doing 7 out that 9 in the state of Connecticut. But not even 4 months after being released from the state of Connecticut, I still had pending charges in Massachusetts, which is at the time that you and I ran into each other in Bill Ricker. Yeah. So my mentality at that time, when we met, you seen what it was. It was militant. I didn't get high. I didn't gamble. I didn't really partake in a lot of the prison politics that you've seen.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of those dudes that really talked too much. Right. If I felt we needed to get down, you was either gonna jump or you checking in the next time we out for rec and you didn't jump when we were supposed to, you checking off.
Yeah.
So the mentality, the way of living was different.
Yeah, I remember you as soon as I saw your face. I remembered you was just putting it where. But so what ends up happening? So I end up getting out, house arrest, end up getting probation for all that stuff. Eventually completed the probation 2 years. What happens with you? With everything that's going on in Mass
I ended up so I ended up finishing my sentence. I ended up doing 6 months at the House of Barica and 18 months at South Bay House of Correction. And then when I got out in 2017, that's when I made a fundamental commitment that enough was enough. That's when I said, you know what? I can't keep living like this. There's got to be something out there better in life for me than in and out.
What was the next move?
So I applied for 18 different nonprofits to work for them as a youth worker. Nobody would take a chance with me. Nobody would hire me.
Why did you want to go the way of that with the youth?
Because I knew that I had an ability to reach the youth the way a lot of these people that claim that they reach the youth can't. For a lot of these people that run organizations, this is just a paycheck for them.
Right.
For me, this wasn't a paycheck. This was a lifestyle. I have an understanding unlike most organizations in the city of Boston or anywhere, on how to reach the demographic of society that they're trying to bring services to, but don't know how to do it.
That's
You know, so I had to educate myself. So in 2017, when I get out, you know, I felt desperation. I felt, I felt unworthy. You know, I had to do a lot of self-help, self-care, and work on myself internally. And as I was working on myself through the graces of Father's Uplift through a mentor named Leonard, you know, because Leonard is the one that helped me, get my thoughts together, get my mind settled, get myself in, spiritually, mentally, in a mind space that allowed me to create ITY and what it is right now.
What was the hardest part of that? Looking at yourself and looking at the mirror and looking at your flaws and having to realize that you changed.
Staying true and committed to myself, and not worrying or caring what others thought or said about me, especially those that claim to love me or were my brothers, who now pointing a finger at me, wanted to do harm to me. You know, I want to say that in 2017, that first year was the hardest year in my transformation of who I am today. You know, there was a lot of people that didn't understand why I chose to stop hanging around, why I chose to stop carrying guns, why I chose to stop selling drugs, why I chose to stop affiliating and considering myself a gang member.
So what would you say to them now to maybe make them understand or help them understand why you did all that, why you stopped hanging around, why you put the guns down?
I mean, look at me now. Look at me and look at you. And not to down talk any of them, because I love a lot of my brothers. And one of the reasons why I created with ITY is that when these brothers of mine are ready, I'm going to have the opportunity that I was never given. Through me, they're going to have that opportunity. They're going to have the opportunity of job training, job placement, housing advocacy, mental health advocacy. Those that are still in courts, that are on parole, that need, they need some type of program that gives them community hours, that gives them, that keeps track of them, that's able to testify for them on their behalf. Listen, he might have done this. I'm not here to adjudicate the sentence that they got, but this is what they've done since they came home. This is what they've done for the community. This is how they've given back to the community. I offer guys the opportunity to give back to their community in the forms of being trained, to being a gang mentor, to being a youth guidance counselor, to being trained on how to become a youth sex trafficking awareness advocate, how to become a domestic violence male advocate, how to become a recovery coach. I'm in recovery myself. I was an addict for many years in this lifestyle.
Damn.
And be it as it was, I was an undercover addict because I was ashamed of doing what I did and being who I was, a part of who I was.
Living a double life.
But when I accept the reality of who I was and what I was doing, and and got to the point that I said, yo, enough is enough. I'm tired. There's got to be something better in life.
Yeah.
And I didn't have nothing to prove to nobody, but prove it to myself.
That's it.
And you know what that proof was? That I was worthy of everything that I'm doing now, that I was worthy of being somebody that could create a legacy and leave a legacy behind.
Absolutely.
That I was worthy of being loved as a brother, as a husband, as a father, as a son, as an uncle.
Worthy. Yeah. Talk about some of the highlights, your favorite moments with this program.
Whenever I'm with my youth, let me tell you something. This past summer, I ran a very successful summer program where we enrolled 100 youths and successfully graduated 76 out of 100.
Wow, congrats. How does someone get involved if they have a kid or something? See, they're going down the wrong path and they want to send them your way.
You contact ITY by either contacting me through our website. ityouth.org, through our Facebook, ityouth.org, or through Instagram, ityouth.org. You know,
That's what's up.
everybody that wants to get in contact with me has a formal way to get in contact with ITY.
Gotcha.
You know, so when I first started, it was just me by myself. You know,
Dope.
by the grace and the glory of God, I got a staff of volunteer of 10 that volunteer on a regular basis. If I need volunteers for events, if I need volunteers to talk to the youth, if I need volunteers to go to somebody's house to go talk to them with their parents, or if we got to go to a high school and talk with the guidance counselor about what's going on with this child,
Yeah.
you know, there's so many people that doubted me when I first came home because of who I was and my past affiliation, you know, and everybody said it. You're a firecracker. We can't afford to take a chance on you because you're a liability.
Wow.
So I had to teach myself how to open up my own nonprofit. I had to teach myself how to become a program director. I had to teach myself politics in the city of Boston. I had to teach myself who was who, what was what, and where I needed to be and at what time I needed to be there.
Was that motivation when they called you a liability? How do you feel about yourself when you hear something like that? Did you get it at least? Did you look at like everything you've done and be like, I understand it, but that's not me?
At first, I was discouraged. You know, I was real discouraged. Like, you know, at a point, I think that I was like, man, F this, man. I'm going to just go back to what I know best. But then something kept nagging at me, like, you can't do that. You can't do that because you know what's the next step for you.
Yeah.
They're going to throw away that key, and that's it.
Yeah. And you don't want that.
You know.
You don't want to be in prison for the rest of your life because, talk to me about what would you say is the worst part about jail, prison, being locked up? What's the worst part in your opinion?
The worst part about being locked up is losing those that you love, those that are closest kin to you, your mother, your father, your sister, your aunt, those that you love wholeheartedly, and not getting the chance to say your last goodbyes or your last farewells.
Yeah.
Sitting there and being in prison and hearing that somebody did something to your child and you wasn't there to protect them.
Yeah.
That's the worst part about being in prison. Forget not eating, forget not getting letters, okay? It's when you lose somebody that you love with all your heart and soul, and you don't get the opportunity to say your last farewells.
Yeah.
That's the worst part about being in prison.
Damn. What advice would you give to somebody who just came home, bro, and they want to do the right thing?
Self-care is the most important thing for you. First of all, I tell all my guys that I talk to, if you didn't make a plan before coming home, then you plan to fail, okay? Those that plan prior to coming home come with an action plan of what they're going to do.
Yeah.
If you didn't take the time while you was in prison to get yourself together, to figure out what are your next steps in society. See, because guys like me and you, we got it the worst coming home, okay? They ain't trying to help us with housing. They ain't trying to help us with stable employment. They ain't trying to help us get our our life back together like that. We have to do it for ourselves.
Yes.
Okay. So the 5 main barriers that we face upon coming home is housing, transportation, food, clothing, and employment.
Yep.
Okay. And mental health, which is the most important part, because guys like me and you, we suffer from severe PTSD.
Facts.
So when I'm sitting there, I'm talking to guys that are returning home, I tell them, self-care is your number one priority.
How do you specifically deal with mental health things that go on?
So I did a lot of men's support groups. I did a lot of individual counseling, group counseling. Even today as a program director, sometimes I get so overwhelmed with the things that I'm going through and trying to raise funding for my program. And it's like, damn, nobody wants to give me an opportunity. They see I'm out there doing the work. They see what my guys do, but they still won't fund us. And I got to be able to rely on my support network to call them, to be able to vent without somebody thinking that I'm being too aggressive, without somebody thinking that I'm menacing, that I'm approaching them in a menacing type way.
Yeah.
Because all we really need is a brother like me and you, somebody that understands the struggle, to just be able to talk about it and just get it off our chest, to then be able to regroup ourselves and figure out what's the next steps.
Yeah.
Where do I go today? I did an event this past Saturday. I had 200 youth and 69 adults that attended my Anime Boston ITY event. Right? I was able to raise in canned donations for 6 weeks straight about $11,500 out the $15,500 that I needed.
Wow.
And then at the last moment, like the last week and a half, got sponsorships from Pastor Dana Gonzo from the Troll Baptist Church out of Dorchester, my pastor Bruce Wallace out of Global Ministry out of Common Square, Pastor Groover out of AMC Child Street, brother like Garrick Thames that runs his own Nurturing Father program, and Rich Solomon, who's the founder and one of the CEOs of Project Right. But prior to that, everything was my work, my hustle, my sweat and tears, and ITY wouldn't be where it's at today if it wasn't for the assistant that I have, Renee Savari, to be honest, because that's been my backbone with this organization ever since she became a part of this organization. A lot of the events that I've been able to put on for the youth in the community, she funded out of her own personal savings.
How do you feel that night, man? After all that, you have a great time. You take 250 people. You guys go to the Anime Con. Everybody has fun, and then you go home at night, man. Like, what's that? Are you glowing? Like, what's that feeling like, man? It seems
I glow. Even days after, I glow.
Is it like a natural high? You're an addict, ex-addict. Talk about it.
Best high ever. The best high in life is gratification. And not just self-gratification, the gratification that you see from the people that you serve. The best thing that people like you and I can be in our community is to be in service of others.
Yes.
Okay? So when you see that true gratification from that family that you're serving, from that youth that you're serving, from that returning citizen that you're helping, there's no better high in life than that gratification that you feel.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what?
I almost feel it just listening to the story, bro.
I might have did some really bad and, negative things in my past, but everything that I do today over trumps any bad or negative things that I did in the past when I was affiliated.
Absolutely, and then not to mention the future.
I'm in the business of saving lives. I'm in the business of changing lives.
Yeah.
All right? I might not be able to change 100 lives, but as long as I change one life,
it's worth it.
It's worth it.
I feel the same way about
because that one person that I changed, that I taught, is going to change and teach another. And that's how the cycle begins. That's how we begin to break the cycle. The recidivism of returning citizens.
Yes.
It starts individually.
And a lot of it starts at the home. Like,
it's not my goal. It's not my goal to save everybody, because I can't save everybody. And you can't help those that don't want to help themselves.
Yeah.
You can lead the horse to the water. You can't force him to drink.
Absolutely.
But I'm so sincere in the work that I do and my commitment to my guys that I work with, that they know I'm the truth. They know I'm not spitting BS to them. They know that I'm not sitting here selling them drinks, because I don't sell dreams.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you, oh, come on, you're going to do this like this, because nothing happens overnight. You got to work for what you want. You got to be committed, and you got to put in effort. You can't show up to a job once or twice and think that they're going to pay you for the rest of the week. That's not reality.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be real. Forget being real with anybody in the streets. You got to be real with yourself first. Once you learn how to start being real with yourself first, then you can move in the streets and learn how to be happy in ways that you never thought possible.
That's so,
you know,
absolutely.
But you got to work on yourself first. See, guys got the habit of, they do 5-10 years, right? Didn't really do no type of work on themselves while they was in prison, and think that they're going to come home and jump right into a relationship with a woman. Okay?
Yeah.
In less than 2-3 months, you're going to find yourself back in jail on the domestic. Why? Because it takes work to be in a relationship with a woman. First of all, a woman of quality is not going to allow for you to use them. It's not going to allow for you to disrespect them. It's not going to allow for you to think that you're going to run all over them. You got to pay your way. Yeah. Any real man knows you're going to be in a relationship, you got to bring something to the table. Right? Because slinging that D is only going to get you so far.
Yeah.
And when a woman gets tired and gets fed up, she gets tired and gets fed up quick. All right? Because especially if a woman got kids of her own, she don't need another mouth, another kid to support.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be there to help her,
Yeah.
not to be another mouth to feed.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
So when a woman starts seeing you as another dependent, the dynamic of that relationship starts to change. All right? And then what do guys end up doing? Their feelings and their egos get hurt. Now comes the domestic violence. Now comes the incarceration and you going back to jail because you didn't take the opportunity to work on yourself as a man the way that you should have, and you allowed yourself to get into a relationship out of circumstantial needs, out of needing a place to live, out of needing a place to stay, over wanting to be with that woman out of heartfelt wants.
And these women are the mothers to the future generation. So we need to treat them right and stop ruining them and stop playing with their heads, because if we're not around, which a lot of us unfortunately aren't, they're going to be the ones raising these kids. So let's do right by them. And to get back to that program, where do you see it in 5 years? What are some things that you want to accomplish with that?
So I have a 2-part goal for ITY, right? I want to be able to create job opportunities for returning citizens like me. I want to train them. I want to certify them. I want to teach them the model that I created, how to go into any school, any community center, any neighborhood and be effective the way that they should, right? But you're not, my nonprofit isn't like most nonprofits that you'll see people that work for nonprofits and they've been working for that nonprofit 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah. And there's no room for growth. There's no room for advancement. No. With ITY, it's only a 3 to 5 year plan. Okay? When you come work for ITY, you're not going to stay working for me more than 5 years. Because in 5 years, I should have been able to help you get your credit score up, teach you how to become an entrepreneur of your own, teach you how to establish becoming a first-time home buyer and owning your first-time home, so that when you leave ITY, you're leaving ITY in a partnership, you know, in a co-op, and that you're going to be able to provide services for other guys coming home like you. You're not meant to come and be a part of ITY and stay stuck with ITY. You're meant, ITY should be
a launching pad.
A launching pad to your future happiness.
Absolutely.
If you're true to yourself and you put the commitment and effort that's needed to do so.
Time and effort, it's with everything, and I appreciate you coming through. If there's just anything else that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to, or some closing words, now's the time, man.
Man, what I would want to say is, man, if you guys are seeing this right here and you seeing me speak, look me up. ITY, you know, look it up at www.ityouth.org and just help me spread the word of what we're really doing in this community. No, like amazing. I said, I pay everything out of pocket myself for everything I do in the community. You know, and it takes a village to raise a child. I need the community to please help me.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to run a successful summer program this summer where I want to be able to hire 100 youth and give them an opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise have. And for me to do that, I need people to help me to get my program funded.
Absolutely.
If you're a philanthropist, if you're in a position that can help me to get my program funded, please look us up.
Yeah.
Contact me at 857-221-1497. That's my direct number. Or reach through to me through either Facebook, Instagram, or directly on our page.
Yeah.
I can use the community support right now. And it's, if you think that what I do is important and it's needed in the community, please support ITY by sharing the information and getting the information into the people who can help fund ITY.
Absolutely. So if you out there and you got money burning a hole in your pocket and you're looking to send it to a good place, my man's right there, ITY. Make sure you do that. And once again, I appreciate you coming through. Amazing to see you on this side of the wall.
Absolutely.
Doing what you're doing. I didn't even know it was going to be you until you pulled up. And I'm like, dude, what's up, man? I recognize you, and it's amazing, and I love to see it.
It's a big difference of how you know that I was on the inside and, having to move a certain way because of all the jail politics compared to how I move on the outside and how I don't really care about those certain politics no more. I just care about saving lives.
Absolutely, and that's what it's about, guys. It is what it is. This is the Bounce Back Podcast. Remember, what's next is what you make it. On that note, we out of here. Thanks again, bro. Bounce back, you got a moment when they see you